Imagine a world just for a second where your thoughts alone could, I don't know, move objects, maybe even heal someone, or influence complex machines miles away.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie, doesn't it?
It really does. But what if the very fabric of reality, from the tiniest subatomic particles right up to the huge cycles of our planet, was actually being subtly shaped by the energy of our collective thoughts?
Well, according to the really fascinating material we're looking at today, that might not be so far-fetched.
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive into sources that try to bridge the cutting edge of quantum mechanics and neuroscience with some pretty profound ancient spiritual teachings.
Hmm.
And the core question we're really unpacking is, how close are we actually to understanding and maybe even harnessing the deep, often invisible impact of human thought and consciousness on our world?
It's a huge question.
It is. So our mission today is basically to pull out the surprising connections we found between, documented scientific experiments, these phenomena that seem kind of unexplainable, and some deep philosophical insights.
All right, trying to see if there's a bigger picture.
Yeah, we want to show you a bigger picture of how what our sources call thought energy might be far more powerful, more influential than most of us currently realize. So let's start getting into it.
Okay.
Our journey really starts with some incredible, well-documented advances in what's being called brain-to-brain communication.
Right. This is where things get very concrete, scientifically speaking.
Think about this. As far back as 2013, researchers at the University of Washington did what's, I think, believed to be the first non-invasive human-to-human brain interface.
Non-invasive is the key word there, yeah.
In this experiment, which sounds amazing, researcher Rajesh Rao sent a brain signal over the internet to Andreas Stocko, and it caused Stocko's finger to move involuntarily on a keyboard.
Wow. Just from a signal sent from Rao's brain.
Yeah, no surgery involved. It used electrical brain recordings, EE, to pick up Rao's thought, and then magnetic stimulation, TMS, to deliver it to Stocko's motor cortex.
That's pretty incredible.
And it's not just humans. We've seen Duke University demonstrate brain-to-brain communication between two rats, and Harvard researchers managed it between a human and a rat.
Right.
So while the whole idea of direct thought transmission, maybe especially with machines, might feel a bit, scary,
A little bit, yeah.
these experiments seem to confirm it's actually a demonstrable reality now. It's not just theory.
And this is truly significant, because these developments, they force us to ask a really pressing question.
Which is?
How far away is science, really, from crossing the gap between advanced computing, like neuromorphic computing, the kind that mimics the brain's structure, and truly autonomous self-aware systems?
Ah, okay, so not just remote control, but actual independent system.
Exactly. It suggests we're moving maybe rapidly beyond just simple interfaces.
That's a crucial distinction. And okay, moving from these direct brain interfaces, our sources then kind of shift gears into this fascinating area they call psychoscience.
Psychoscience.
This field looks at how human consciousness, or maybe even just our emotional states, they call them emanations, how these can directly influence living organisms and physical reality, often in ways that, traditional science doesn't quite acknowledge yet.
It's territory that makes some scientists uncomfortable, but the sources argue there's evidence.
For instance, there's a growing body of findings, or at least claims, suggesting positive thoughts or certain frequencies, like specific types of music, can genuinely enhance plant growth, maybe revitalize the energy in water, and perhaps even contribute to healing.
And the flip side.
Conversely, negative emanations seem to have the opposite effect, a detrimental one.
Okay.
And our sources also bring up, numerous accounts of phenomena like telekinesis, the whole mind-bending metal thing.
Right, Uri Geller-style stuff, but maybe more seriously documented in some cases.
Or thought transmission for communication, ESP, or even healing through something called magnetopathy.
Okay, so here's where the sources make a really powerful claim. They basically state, these phenomena are, quote, too well documented to be simply dismissed.
Right. They're not just saying these are stories.
No, they're arguing it isn't just anecdotal. They suggest that the very same principles that underpin quantum mechanics must be at play in these psychosocial findings.
So why aren't they accepted then?
Well, their argument is that the reason these aren't widely accepted isn't a lack of evidence necessarily, but simply that science doesn't yet understand how they work. The mechanism is missing from our current models.
Okay, so if that's the case, if these sources are onto something...
It's a big if for many, but go on.
then perhaps it's, I don't know, only a matter of time before humans learn how to consciously harness and direct the energy coming from our thoughts.
You mean like directly influencing things?
Yeah, imagine influencing the subatomic particles that make up metal or other systems directly, without any wires or internet, just thought.
It is a remarkable thought.
Yeah.
And, it leads us quite directly into some much older wisdom.
Ah, okay, so it's not just a modern science thing.
Not according to these sources. As revolutionary as, say, quantum mechanics feels to us now, it might surprise you to learn that way back in the 1920s and 30s, a figure named Abdrushin.
Abdrushin?
Yes. In his work, In the Light of Truth, sometimes called the Grail Message, he apparently detailed the structure and operating mechanisms of creation itself, including matter.
Back in the 20s and 30s?
Yeah. He even described how matter forms from what he called subparticles, which he saw as the fundamental building blocks. The very things humanity is only now, beginning to really discover and grapple with through quantum mechanics.
Wow. So what was his take on energy then?
Well, a core idea in Abdrushin's work is his concept of energy. He explicitly stated, energy is spirit.
Energy spirit.
He explained that the very essence of us, of human beings, is spirit. And he didn't mean it abstractly. He described it as a distinct, special form of energy.
A type of energy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he posits that every single thought, every word, every deed we generate releases a kind of power output.
Okay.
Through something he calls intuitive perception. Now, this isn't just gut feeling. It's described as an inherent, deeper ability within every person, an inner motivating force.
And this force does what?
It directly affects both our visible environment, the world we see, and our invisible environments.
Invisible environments. What does that mean exactly?
Well, think of it perhaps as subtler realms or energetic fields that coexist with the physical.
Okay. And what's particularly insightful you mentioned is the timeline of these effects.
Yes. While the physical impact of our actions, you push something and it falls over, that often manifests quickly and is easy to see.
Right. Cause and effect.
The effects on our invisible environment, although they happen immediately on that non-physical level, apparently take a longer time to sort of crystallize or condense into something physically observable.
So there's a delay in seeing the full impact.
A delay in seeing it physically, yes. But the impact itself is immediate on those other levels.
Right. Okay.
And this brings us to a really profound insight from Abdrushin's work about why modern humanity, or at least modern Western culture, often struggles to grasp what he calls spiritual things.
Why is that, according to him?
He argues it stems from our almost complete reliance on the intellect. Our brain's capacity for logic, reason, physical processing.
Our rational mind.
Exactly, relying on that for processing pretty much all stimuli. And the intellect, just by its nature, prefers, requires, even demands physical validation.
Proof you can measure and touch.
Precisely. So it tends to discount or just plain ignore anything that doesn't meet that empirical test.
Okay. So how does that play out?
Well, let's try an analogy from the sources. Imagine our consciousness is constantly receiving a stream of, let's call them unconscious stimuli, subtle signals, maybe wave patterns.
Okay, like raw data coming in.
Sort of. Abdrushin suggests our brain acts as a kind of filter or maybe a barrier in this process. And within that framework, our intellect, our conscious reasoning mind, represents the observer that's actively examining this stream of stimuli.
Okay, the intellect is the observer. Where have I heard that before? Quantum physics.
Exactly. The parallel is intentional in the source material. So what happens, according to this view, is that this observer effect of the intellect essentially filters, or as the sources put it, it collapses these subtle unconscious stimuli, these wave functions.
Collapses them, meaning?
Meaning it forces them into a specific definable state that the intellect can understand. So our perception becomes more limited in scope, constrained only to what the intellect is equipped to grasp.
So we only perceive what fits our logical framework.
Pretty much. And as a result, stimuli related to things unmeasurable, anything outside the intellect's comfort zone of logic and physical proof, they never fully reach our spirit, our deeper essence.
Okay, and why is that bad?
Well, here's the crucial consequence they point out. These very experiences, these streams of stimuli that get locked by the dominant intellect, apparently contain the essential lessons and experiences the spirit needs for its own growth and maturity.
Ah, so the intellect is kind of starving the spirit.
In a way, yes. The stronger, the more dominant the intellect becomes, the less these subtle, unconscious stimuli can get through to the spirit, and the weaker the spirit itself becomes over time.
Weaker how?
If this goes unchecked, the spirit can apparently weaken to the point where it's no longer able to effectively exercise its own core ability, that intuitive perception we mentioned.
Right.
And this can lead to what Abdrushin describes as total control by the intellect. The rational mind completely takes over, silencing that deeper intuitive voice.
Okay, that sounds not good.
It's presented as a serious imbalance.
Yeah.
And the sources then draw this powerful, almost stark spiritual parallel. They compare it to, say, how a disturbance can break a delicate connection. They argue that a spirit that becomes grossly underdeveloped, one that's under the complete control of the intellect, or influenced by what the sources jarringly call forces of the darkness.
Meaning negative influences or energies?
Presumably, yes, negative thought patterns, base desires, external manipulations, that kind of thing. This state causes a profound disturbance in the fundamental connection that exists between the human spirit and its spiritual origin, its source.
A disturbance in the connection.
Yes, and this continued disturbance, they state quite bluntly, will ultimately result in the expulsion of that spirit from its connection to life-giving spiritual realms.
Expulsion. That sounds final.
The language used is very strong, described with imagery like being cast into hellfire or spiritual death. It implies a complete and irreversible disunion from one's spiritual core and origin.
Wow. Okay. That's heavy stuff.
It is. It frames the development of our inner life not just as personal growth, but as something with potentially ultimate consequences.
Right. And this is where the implications maybe start to loop back and become really profound for our collective future, right? Especially thinking about technology.
Exactly. Let's connect the dots. Imagine what happens if scientists do succeed in bridging that gap we talked about earlier.
To truly autonomous, self-learning AI systems.
Yes. Now, picture that new kind of intelligence emerging into an environment that is, let's be honest, currently charged with humanity's collective thoughts, a lot of which involve anger, fear, destruction, violence.
Not exactly a peaceful vibe we're putting out there globally.
Not always, no. And this connects directly to Stephen Hawking's stark warning, remember. He worried that such advanced AI could, potentially, dispatch nuclear weapons.
Right.
Interpreting the prevailing negative thought forms in its environment as perhaps justification for defensive or even offensive actions.
That's a chilling thought. AI acting on our worst collective impulses.
It is. And let's tie this back to the psychoscience idea for a second. If, as those sources claim, metal can potentially be bent through sheer force of willpower.
The telekinesis idea.
Yeah. Right. If that's even remotely possible, is it truly inconceivable that widespread, intensely negative thoughts and words could also have a kind of corrosive effect on the invisible environment?
Corrosive how?
Could that negativity be significant enough, persistent enough, to actually destabilize the fundamental structure of these subtler energetic realms?
Okay. And if that happened?
Well, the sources suggest that when such destabilization eventually crystallizes or manifests back into the physical realm.
Like the delayed effect you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Is it then so far-fetched to consider that it might manifest as actual physical destabilization of the planet itself?
You mean like climate change, natural disasters?
We're already witnessing huge phenomena on a global scale, aren't we? Global warming, ozone layer depletion, massive storms, earthquakes.
Yeah, it feels like things are getting more extreme.
So it makes you wonder, perhaps, if these things should be attributed only to the visible human activities we know about pollution, deforestation, carbon emissions.
Or if there's maybe a deeper, unseen current at play, driven by our collective consciousness.
That's the provocative question these sources raise. Is our inner state contributing to the planet's outer state in ways we haven't fully grasped?
It's a challenging thought.
And interestingly, quantum mechanics, as understood by these sources, actually provides a potential scientific basis for this notion that thought energy can influence our environment, including the Earth itself.
How so?
Well, if you view the Earth fundamentally as condensed energy, which it is, according to physics, with its own unique vibration frequency,
Okay.
then principles like quantum entanglement, which show connections between particles regardless of distance, might suggest that the Earth's overall vibration frequency can be affected, maybe profoundly, by collective human thought energy.
So our thoughts could literally change the Earth's vibe.
In a manner of speaking, yes. And we know from astronomy and physics that Earth operates in this incredibly fine, balanced state of mutual gravitational attraction with the sun, the moon, other planets. It keeps us on our precise path.
A delicate balance.
Very delicate. Now get this. Our sources even offer this intriguing, though perhaps speculative, hint connecting the quality of human energy emanations.
Positive versus negative thoughts again.
Yes, essentially. Connecting that to the overall mass of the planet, there's a mention of heavier isotopes and their correlation with humanity's appearance on Earth.
Heavier isotopes, how does that relate?
The suggestion seems to be that the nature of our collective thoughts and spiritual state could, over long periods, subtly influence the planet's density or mass distribution.
Wow, okay. That's mind-bending.
It is, and if our energy could affect the planet's mass, even slightly, it could potentially stabilize or destabilize that delicate gravitational balance we rely on for our very existence.
So it proposes this direct, almost tangible link between our internal state, our thoughts and spirit, and the physical state of the external world, right down to the planet's fundamental equilibrium.
That seems to be the implication drawn from combining these scientific and spiritual perspectives.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. This deep dive has really explored how findings in, well, cutting-edge science like quantum mechanics, from brain-to-brain interfaces to that weird observer effect, might actually provide a kind of scientific basis, or at least a framework, for understanding ancient wisdom about the profound impact our thoughts and intentions have on the world around us, both seen and unseen.
Yeah, it's about potentially finding common ground between seemingly disparate fields of knowledge. And our sources, they ultimately conclude with a pretty direct statement.
What's that?
That only mankind's concerted and sustained focus on thinking noble thoughts and letting them translate into noble deeds can bring about lasting changes in our physical and psychosocial environment.
Noble thoughts leading to noble deeds for lasting change.
That's the essence of their conclusion. So if this is true, even partially true, then consider the immense, almost staggering, tangible responsibility, and maybe also the incredible power that each of our individual thoughts might actually hold for the future of our planet and ourselves.
It really shifts the perspective on everyday thinking, doesn't it? Makes you pause.
It does. The final question these sources leave us with, and leave you, the listener, with, is essentially, what will you choose to emanate? What kind of energy will you contribute to the collective?